By 2500 BC, the Indus Valley Civilization had emerged along the Indus River in present-day Pakistan. Like the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Indus River was noted for its violent and unpredictable flooding. Among the urban centers that arose along the Indus were Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Streets in both cities were laid out in a precise grid, and the houses had running water and sewage systems. Because of the similarities among the cities, they were tightly unified and centrally controlled. Much of what historians know about the Indus Valley Civilization comes from archaeological discoveries, because Harappan writing is not yet deciphered. From these discoveries, we see active trade between the Indus Valley and Sumer. Ore deposits in both areas granted access to valuable resources through the Khyber Pass, linking the Indus Valley to Afghanistan. Historians call this period the Vedic Age because the main source of information about this time comes from a religious text called Vedas. Around 1500 BC, the Harappan civilization was taken over by a light-skinned Indo-European group called the Aryas. Along with many other societies around them, the Aryas were patriarchal. Iron tools allowed new settlers to fall trees and work the land with iron plows pulled by oxen. Due to the annual monsoon, the Ganges plain was able to sustain 2 to 3 crops a year. Bitter rivalry between the Aryas and the Dasas, a group of dark-skinned speakers of Dravidian languages, caused a merging of the two groups. This led to a system of Varna, meaning color, which led to the creation of the caste system. In the caste system, there were 4 classes: the Brahmin, or priests and scholars, then the warriors and officials, then merchants, artisans, and landowners, and then the peasants and workers. Under all of these were the untouchables, who were the darkest skinned of all. The untouchables had to do the dirty work, like clean out sewers. Those who did not like the caste system were allowed to leave the community and retreat to the forest. Some pursued insight into the nature of oneself and the universe through yoga. They taught each other that by distancing oneself from desire, one could achieve moksha, or liberation from reincarnation. Another practice of far greater significance was Buddhism. Siddhartha Gautama, the founder of Buddhism, gave up family and privilege to become a wandering ascetic. He began to adhere to a path of moderation and created the 4 noble truths. Life is suffering. Suffering arises from desire. The solution to suffering lies in curbing desire, and desire can be curbed if a person follows the 8-fold path of right views, aspirations, speech, conduct, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and meditation. The ultimate reward of Buddhism was nirvana, which was a release from the cycle of reincarnations and achievement of tranquility. The Mauryan Empire was the first centralized empire in India, lasting from the 4th to 2nd centuries BC. The Mauryan Empire was strong militarily and economically. A tax equivalent to 1/4 the value of the harvest supported the Mauryan kings and the government. Standard coinage throughout the empire fostered support for the government and military, and also promoted trade. The military consisted of infantry, cavalry, chariots, and elephant divisions. The Mauryan capital was located at modern-day Patna, where the Ganges River is joined by 5 tributaries. The Mauryan Empire collapsed in 184 BC after being weakened by dynastic disputes due to attacks in the northwest. In the 4th century CE, the Gupta Empire appeared and also had their capital in present-day Patna. However, the Gupta Empire was not as extensive as the Mauryan. Like the Mauryans, the Gupta exploited agriculture in the Ganges plain and also controlled nearby iron deposits. They also charged a 25% revenue tax on agriculture, similar to the harvest tax of the Mauryan. The Gupta was not as centralized though. The military effectively controlled the center of the empire, but the outsides were mainly run by local governors. Gupta women saw a decline in their status during this period. They lost the right to own or inherit property, and also were treated like the lower-class peasants and workers. Unlike the Mauryan Empire, who had been mainly Buddhist, the Gupta practiced Hinduism. They brought back the ancient Vedic practices of reincarnation and karma. They believed that your karma, which is defined as the good and bad deeds you do in your life, would determine your next life. If you had good karma, you would come back as a higher class. Bad karma would put you lower, and possibly an untouchable if your offense was bad enough. The Gupta Empire came under pressure in the 5th century by the Huns from Central Asia. The Indian Ocean trade network extended across the Indian Ocean and into Asia in the South China Sea. Monsoon winds greatly facilitated trade. Trade was very diverse, and so it was less competitive than Mediterranean trade because everyone was selling different things. Families were split apart, and sometimes sailors would have wives in many cultures and children that were very cosmopolitan. Journeys would last months, and so sailors had to pretty much pack everything they owned and have no ties to any homeland. Boats used lateen sails to take advantage of the monsoon winds and sail against the wind. Africa was a very poor and isolated region of the world at this time. Other than Egypt, there were not any major civilizations that had appeared yet. However, the sub-Saharan trading system linked North and South Africa across the Sahara Desert. Camels from Arabia became the main route of transportation, and the camel saddle was invented. The main products being traded were salt, palm oil, olives, wheat, and animals. Arabs took control of trade in the north, which led to trade shifting to the Middle East.